Okay, so to begin to construct our 3D pyramid rooms, you're going to be using this template, and the template is labeled for areas that you should be drawing and not drawing. So just kind of pay attention. If it says do not draw here, then make sure none of your design goes in this area because that's going to be cut off later. These triangle pieces in the corners you also do not draw on. So what you're just drawing on are the floor, ceilings, and right wall and left wall. So the other thing that you have to pay attention to is lightly printed on your handout are 3 dots. A dot that's in the very center of the back wall. That's the vanishing point we learned how to use. Then there's a dot above it on the ceiling and a dot above it on the floor. Because we end up cutting these apart and folding them together, we have to use 2 different vanishing points to make the floor and the ceiling. So the vanishing points, if I'm going to be doing my floor, for example, the vanishing point that I have to use is this tiny dot up here on this ceiling. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If I wanted tile on my floor, I'm going to put my ruler on this dot way up here on the ceiling, and then I'm going to draw from the bottom of the rectangle to the bottom of the paper. And then I'm using my dot that's up here at the top of the ceiling. I'm going to draw that converging line, and I'm going to repeat that across the bottom of my floor. The vanishing point I'm using is the dot up in the ceiling. And this template is a practice template to figure out your design and the vanishing points. And then we can trace what we drew from here onto our final copy paper. So that's what my converging lines look like. Now I'm just going to add in my horizontal lines. Remember that lines that are farthest away are closer together, and then they get farther and farther apart as your horizontal lines get nearer to you or the bottom edge. And remember, these are horizontal, so my ruler should be parallel to the bottom of my paper. So that would be how I would set up the floor. If I was going to be doing lights on the ceiling or another type of shape on the ceiling, the vanishing point that I'm using is this tiny little dot on the floor. So I'm going to do maybe something that looks like a skylight in my ceiling. I'm going to line up my ruler to this vanishing point on the floor. I'm going to draw the converging line on the right side, line up my ruler on the dot on the floor, draw this converging line on the right and the left side. Then I'm going to add in my parallel lines that are horizontal. Back here. And I'm going to be erasing that little bit of extra. Okay, so that's how I would be using these vanishing points to set this up. If I wanted this spot to look 3D, I'm going to draw this little vertical corner here. Vertical corner. Sorry, the video keeps falling. It's vertical corner here. And then I draw in a parallel line across there to connect those. And then I go back to this vanishing point on the floor. That dot on the floor. I'm going to line up my ruler in the corner here and that dot there. Draw that converging line. Line up to the dot on the floor and the corner up here. And draw that converging line. So that's how I would set up kind of the 3D section of my ceiling. So then you need to design whatever's going to go on your back wall, whether that's doors or windows or hallways. And remember, we don't do anything in these triangle pieces, so stay empty. But then we can design the right wall and the left wall. And this is where you will use that vanishing point in the middle like we learned how to do previously. So if I want a big window over here on the side, the camera keeps falling. Use that vanishing point. And you get to decide if you want multiple windows or one large window. Your window can become a work of art, or it can become literally a window that you design what you see outside. Then you have to have at least one door on a side wall, and you can decide what that door becomes. If your door is going to get turned into a fireplace or a hallway, that's fine. So I'm going to make this 3D edge to my window here. Make that parallel. And then the printing paper that we made last week, those prints are gonna be turned into parts of your room, whether they become the floor, the ceiling, or these artworks that are hanging on your wall. And I'll show you how we can make those templates later on. But for now, we're just gonna practice sketching out what our basic drawing is going to be looking like. Maybe I divide this in half so it looks a little more interesting here. I'm going to get my door over here. I'm going to draw my converging line first. Maybe this is going to become a hallway. Then I go to my parallel lines all the way to the floor. If I want it to be a hallway, I add a horizontal line in this corner. And I might see some of the ceiling here. It just depends. Got to check how high your door was drawn. So that's how I would draw kind of a hallway going into that other space. Okay, so like I said, this is just practice for you to begin to set up with the 3 different vanishing points. And then from here, I'll be showing you how we transfer onto our final paper when you like the drawing that you've made. And then I'll show you how we cut and fold and use our prints to finish the rest.